Greetings Boffins, welcome to the Boffin Lab. I'm Mardor Tarrant and this is a Nano-Guide for EVE Online. Welcome to the start of your career in EVE Online. I've started with a Galentian character just to show you how things are going, and I've let Aura and the commander have their little spiel to begin with. There are a few things I suggest you do right at the start so that you can be ready for future events. The first things I suggest you do is increase the size of the chat window. You have two chat tabs available to you right away. There's the local, which is the star system you are in. Anybody in the star system is visible in the list and will chat in this window. You start in a rookie corporation. In this case, I'm in the Galente Naval Academy, and everybody else in that corporation can speak in the corporation tab. Most of these people will be rookies as well, but there will be a few old hands there. You can ask questions in both of these channels. The one for corporation is more likely to be helpful at this stage. The second thing I suggest you do is up in the right hand corner. We have two windows, selected item and overview. If you watch, we can move these windows around, and I suggest you expand them so that you can see what is in them more easily. This will become apparent a little later down the track. Increase the selected item window in this manner, and then the overview. And then I suggest you change the name column so you can see what's in it more easily. These windows will be a matter of preference down the line, but this will get you started. You'll have a look at tutorials on how to set these up later on down the track. There's one last thing you should do before you get started. Go to your character sheet. In EVE Online, skill training is real time. You don't use a skill in order to train it. It just ticks over as time goes past. Thus, you will learn to regret every second that a skill is not training. I would suggest you select a skill of your preference and get it training right away. The point will not be wasted or lost, so it's worth starting right now. If you're a Galentian pilot, drones are going to be one of your primary weapon systems, so it's worth starting on that right now. Load in a drones lesson and possibly a second one. You can stack up multiple skills in the list at the bottom. The last skill can overhang your 24-hour limit. This way you can set things up so that you have more than a day's training in the list. You can pop skills you want to the top of the list at any time, and the points each skill accumulates will not be lost. It's worth, however, setting things up at the start so that you don't lose a second of training. If you look at it, you can already see the training points are accumulating on this skill right away. Close the window and we can get started. Aura wants you to do some basic maneuvering and viewing tasks to begin with, but I'm going to deliberately mess things up. If something goes wrong and you need to read an instruction again or start a tutorial section over again, you can hit this question mark right here. This will give you the option to reset to the last checkpoint. If you click it, you get a confirmation window and you hit yes. But what you will probably see is your entire view field will disappear. This requires you to do one more thing to get things working again. You'll notice over here at the operations info panel, you now have a warp to location option. To get things started and for things to make sense, you need to warp to the new zone. Otherwise, the scenery won't be there for you to understand what you're
To
doing.
orbit the view around your ship, hold down the left mouse button and move the mouse around.
Now that we're in the correct zone, we can do all the bits and pieces that we're asked by Aura without any problems.
To zoom
I'm
in,
going to quickly flick through all these
ships
requests
test basic
so that you
navigation.
don't waste time watching
To
me do
stop your ship,
stuff.
you should click the highlighted stop.
Aura has now asked you to look at a target and then return to looking at your ship. She suggested you use the radial menu. You click on an item in space and you can select the item before letting go of the mouse button. There's a great number of options here available to you, but there is another way of doing these things. In your overview, the target has been highlighted in blue for this mission. If you selected it in the overview or in space, you would see a whole collection of buttons at the top, including the Look At button. Now you can click on it again to look at your ship. Looking at a target is not necessary.
Next,
You can
right-click on
simply
the image
select
and select the approach
Approach
command.
without looking at it. It is
To
largely
transfer everything from
just for
air cargo
visuals.
hold to
You
your
don't
ship,
need to look at
move your
things
mouse pointer over
unless you
the
really want
navigation
to.
and hold down the left mouse button. A radial menu will appear. Select Open Cargo to view the contents, and then press the Loot All button.
You can loot a wreck once you're inside 2,500 meters. Once again, Aura wants you to use the radial menu. If I click on the wreck, there's the button she wants at the top. However, once again, there is another option. There it is, on the selected items menu, Open Cargo, and that will open the wreck. There is two ways of doing this. You can hit the Loot All button at the bottom, or you can grab what you want and drag it onto your cargo bay. You can close the
After you've
window now.
viewed the Loot All
If you want to
button,
look in your cargo bay, this is the button you're looking
RCD
for,
signals that
down the
indicate a dead
bottom.
survivor is located in the highlighted wreckage.
That will open your
Right-click on the
cargo
wreckage,
bay
then
again.
select Approach.
Once again, I'm using the overview in order to select items and
To
approach
transfer the dead
items.
survivor to your ship,
If you're traveling
repeat the same
distances,
steps
hit
as
your
before.
afterburner. That will get you there faster.
Move your mouse
However,
pointer over the wreckage
afterburners tend
and
to
hold
make
down
you
the left
overshoot
mouse button.
targets a little bit,
A
so
radial menu will
it's
appear.
worth turning it off
Select
just
Open
before you
Cargo
reach your
to view the
target.
contents and then press the Loot All button.
Clicking the Open Cargo button on a distant wreck will automatically go close to that target and open its cargo. You don't have to push Approach and then Open.
Captain, I am...
Aura and the commander are talking about a warp disruption field. You can see this giant bubble if you scroll out far enough. These things are the terrors of nullsec space, and you should know about them. However, fortunately, you have an easy way of dealing with this one. You have three ways of approaching the target. You can select it in space, use the radial menu to approach, or you can select it in the overview and use the radial menu once again to approach, or lastly, you can select it in your overview and approach from the selected item menu. I'd hit the
To
afterburner.
lock your weapon system on the generator, hold down your left mouse button on the generator and select Lock Target on the radial menu.
All ships have a locking range, and some equipment can affect your locking range. Once a target is in range, the lock target option is available to you.
While engaging, the optimal flight path is to orbit your target. This enables you to move while firing, making it difficult for your enemy's weapon systems to track you. Move your mouse over the generator and hold down the left mouse button to open the radial menu. Then select the Orbit command.
Orbiting your target is usually a good move. However, there are exceptions. Selecting the target either from the targeted item menu, in space, or the overview, and then hitting orbit in the selected items or from the radial menu, and your ship will start circling at a
Excellent.
set
You
distance
are
from the
in the
target.
optimal position. I
You can
suggest you fire
choose
your
what this
primary
distance
weapon.
is by right-clicking on the set orbit, and you will have a default orbit distance. For your tutorials, the 1000 meter orbit distance is quite sufficient. Your weapons, however, have an interesting thing to look at. You will see that the optimal range is listed as 5,280 meters and the fall-off range is 7,380 meters. It is largely useless firing at a target outside that range. You should wait until you get close enough before turning on the gun. Your civilian Gatling railgun has no ammunition, but it's a good habit to get into because most other weapons will use ammunition and you don't want to waste them. Click the weapon and it will start firing. It should continually and automatically fire until such time as the target is gone.
You should now stop your ship.
As an option for stopping your ship, Control and Spacebar will bring your ship to a stop as well.
Captain, I need
Don't
you to
wait
remain
for the
calm.
instructions. Target the ship
Now it's
and
time to engage the
fire.
planes, Captain.
Use the orbit button to get into position. Fortunately, these ships aren't very fast and they're not very tough, so you should be quite capable of dealing with it.
Don't forget to stop your ship.
Well done, recruit. Your first kill. You were flying solo. This kind of combat experience is essential for defending the liberties of the Federation. Alright, on to the backup warp Wait, seems the drifters are determined to get a hold of you, recruit. Another one of their seekers is warped in.
Captain,
Hit orbit target and now
it's time
lock
to
target.
engage.
You should be in
Fire your
range.
weapons.
Use your auto
When you have defeated the
afterburner
seeker,
to get
you
into
should
close
stop your ship.
range. At this stage, we're not close enough for our gun to do anything of any use, so we'll have to wait until we are. At just under 7,000, we should be effective range for our weapons.
Good work, Captain. You can explore the seeker wrecks to see if they left anything behind. Move your mouse.
Aura has suggested that you check
Captain,
those
locate the
seeker
project
wrecks.
generator in your overview and approach it.
if you look at the overview, you will see that wrecks that you haven't opened are brighter than the ones that you have. Also, if a wreck has something in it, the little square in the three arrows is filled. However, once you remove everything from a wreck, the square is now hollow. This is how you can tell whether it's worth even looking at a wreck to begin with. Open the wreck with the open cargo button and loot all. The metal scraps have a value. Considering you have so little money, it's worth grabbing them anyway. I'm going to take this opportunity to demonstrate the effective range of fire weapon systems. I've turned on my Gatling railgun long before it's in range, and the information I'm receiving is that I'm completely missing the target. This is because I'm nowhere near in range for my weapons. Different ammunition and different weapons affect the range at which you would engage the target. Your skills will also have an effect too. As you see, now that I've come inside the range of my weapons, I'm actually hitting it.
Find your HQ highlighted in the overview. Hold down your left mouse button and select Dock on the radial menu. You do not want to face these giant drifter ships by yourself.
There's an easier way of doing it. Select the station that's marked in your overview and hit the Dock button. This button will warp you to the target and dock you immediately upon entering docking range. It saves you a few clicks. There are occasionally reasons you'd want to warp to a station and not dock, but at the moment you're unlikely to need that.
Docking permission requested. Docking request accepted.
You've escaped the drifter trap and now you're ready for your next steps. Check out the next video for the instructions. In the meantime, have fun, good hunting.